Was there ever a time on the set when it kind of felt awkward, especially when the audience, the crowd was, booing and they were using the N words and all that stuff? Was there ever a difficult moment, especially for Chadwick and other black actors, like that ever happened?
Well, I'd tell you the scene that got all of us, it was tough for all of us to do the Ben Chapman scene, who was the manager on the other baseball
Mm.
team that's yelling at him when he's standing up at the plate. I mean, you know, none of us have heard language like that over and over, take after take after take. It's like, oh man, this is horrible. That kind of got to all of us. And it's I think it's just it's tough for us. I mean, listen, I grew up in Southern California. Okay, so Southern California was a whole different ballgame, even in that era, as they expressed with Jackie Robinson growing up basically in Southern California, than it is living in the South. And it still is to this day, quite frankly. But it's not like it was then. And I mean, it was, it was rough, man. It was very rough. And so all of us cringe really when you're doing scenes like that, and you feel guilty in essence as a white person in America, and being a part of what went on, and how long it took to get, in essence, Barack Obama elected president of the United States. And I think all of us since then have been crushed by what's happened since then, because we all thought that, gee, America has really gotten over that point, and look how far we've come, and isn't this great? And only to find, in the Trump era, that there's still a lot of hostility and hatred and racism, that exists.
Right. One point that you made, which was really good, that you know, not that things are better, but I mean they're a lot better than they were probably in the '60s, right, with the civil rights movement. And I mean,
Right.
seeing a sign of white
Yeah.
only, or colored people entrance. I mean,
Right.
if that was to happen today, there would be like chaos
Right.
everywhere. I mean, so
Yeah.
we've come far, but progress is there. But I guess it's one of those things where we constantly need to improve ourselves, and I think we'll get there. I have strong faith we will get there for
Yeah.
sure.
I
It's
mean,
just
it's certainly a lot better, but I get reminded that it's still out there, and people just basically in fear of what they don't know ultimately.
is it really okay? I'm being like I don't like to discuss politics, but is it really
Yeah.
bad even now in California?
No, 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 it's not like that. No, I mean, I think that it's you wouldn't it would be rare that you would ever see behavior like that. I'm just saying that there is pockets of it that still exist.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'll still witness it, more of it in the South than I will in
Oh,
the
really?
rest of America. But it's the times are changing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's no doubt about it. But you just get reminded every once in a while that there's still people that have a difficult time with it.
for sure. Absolutely. And I think what's also challenging nowadays is media's role. Media has lost so much credibility that even when they're trying to tell the truth, both sides, right and left, they kind of go in completely different directions, and there's all this trust is not there. And I hope that gets revived, because journalism pretty much was something that we would be informed everything from there.
Right, right. Years ago, I asked my parents' generation, because
Hmm.
I remember growing up in the '60s, and I said, listen, there was Channel 2, Channel 4, and Channel 7, ABC,
Yeah.
CBS, NBC News. You know, I said, did anybody watch a particular news station because of leaning one way or another? If you were a
Yeah.
Republican, watch this, and they're like, no, that didn't exist. That didn't really happen until cable news. And before that, news didn't have to make money. it was a requirement to have an FCC license to require to have a news division, and so the news division, they weren't driven so much by profit as ultimately they are today, and especially the cable, that they, as you saw with Fox, they willingly lie to their audience so that they can, keep their ratings up high, keep people, buying the service every month, and of course they all get rich. So it's harder for people to, they can't sit down and watch Walter Cronkite, and get that half hour of, update on what's going on in the world. So yeah, that is a problem.
It's also, I think it's kind of like, no matter which side you belong to, like if you go on the other side, people will only want to listen to what they agree with. And that reinforces into them over and over again, and they become more on that side, regardless of which side. I at least find that. And it's the same thing with algorithm. Like if you go on,
Algorithm is a big problem.
social media, like I actually did this.
Algorithm is the biggest part of the problem. I think that they're going to have to outlaw the algorithm.
I did this. I did this test for 2 weeks. 1 week I started watching all left media, and my whole thinking became left. And then next week I started watching right, and I became right. And then I stopped. I'm like, I can't take this. This is too much, right? It just it really plays with your mind, and that's what's happening. It's not in America. I think it's happening all across the world now.
Right. I mean, listen, it's like on your phone. If you book a flight to a specific town and look for a motel, next thing you know, you've got motels from Kansas City or wherever you're going showing up all the time on your phone. It's like,
yeah,
great. This is not what I need, but that's what happens. So as soon as you start looking at something, it'll just keep sending you things from that direction. So,
yeah.
And then because ultimately, when JFK was assassinated, I was very young, and my parents were Republicans, and all I remember is how sad they were, and they weren't bashing the fact that the Democratic president had been assassinated. They were very sad that our president, and how impossible that, I can't believe that our president has been assassinated. It was our president still. You imagine today, I think some people would be dancing in the streets. So that's how it's changed. Yeah. But listen, one of the great things about filmmaking is the fact that I get to work on projects like this, and Contact, and Forrest Gump, and all these different types of movies that we get to make that have something to say about the condition of the world. I think we're very fortunate to be able to do it on such a grand scale. And in essence, speak truth. Whatever. Because we always strive for, and I do in my cinematography, is I strive for truth in the story that I'm telling. And the characters and the actors, they do the same thing. I mean, they're always striving to make those lines believable, and get it right, as do the writers and the directors. They're trying to get it right. They're trying to get that story told and make it believable. And so, in some ways, we tell more truth than the news does about the human condition and about what's going on or what happened.